Okay. Welcome. This is going to be a long one. We were talking about some new players. We were talking about what to spend your Endo on, which mods to rank up first. And I was like, I can just make a tier list. It turns out there's a lot of mods in Warframe, and so just make a tier list is not actually, uh, yeah, it's not quite that simple. Um, so I'm here in my favorite simulacrum. Um, and basically, I'm here to say, why should you listen to me? Um, and the answer is because I know what I'm doing. Uh, I have, well, I've played the game a bunch, and I kind of know how things work. Um, but let me just give a couple of demonstrations about the kinds of builds that I have. Because in theory, if I know how to make good builds, I will be able to tell you what matters. Um, yeah, so that's that. Let's look at this one. This is the Torid. I guess let me show you that Paris build as well, because you know there's the Paris build. And that ribbon, that's a pretty solid ribbon. It is good, but very far from being the optimal ribbon for this setup. Um, Go back to Saryn, and let's start with the heavy gunners again. I know this may be not really necessary for some of you don't really care or whatever. You're happy to trust me. Um, but, may as well. If you're looking at this and going, oh yeah, that's pretty good, then, really good. If you're looking at this and going, yeah, that's not very impressive, I could do that, then this guide may not be so helpful for you because you probably have enough endo that you've already figured this out and you just don't care. And if you're looking at this and it doesn't make any damn sense, this guide is probably also for you. Because, and let's do the dedicants again. And let's do these guys. I discovered recently that they took the damage attenuation off the dedicants, which is interesting. They just have a gigantic stack of hit points now, which I don't know how I feel about that. I think if that's a sign of them overall moving away from damage attenuation as a mechanic, at least for like normal enemies like the Dedicants. Um, I think that's good. I'm not a fan of damage attenuation. But anyway, um, that should give you some sort of calibration for how this guide is going to go. Um, like I said, if you look at that and think, that's not that impressive, then it's okay. You don't need to worry about it. Um, you don't need to worry about this video. You can just skip to the end probably. But for those of you who want to be able to do that kind of thing, here's some information on mods. Um, Let me set these up. We're gonna need some more of these. Arrow below. What do I want here? Two of these probably. Let's make that. And like that. And go. Say and not. We need one more of these. Okay, let's not use the black because that makes it impossible to read. There we go. Okay, so let's talk about the tiers. S tier, it's really good. You're going to want to max it. Not S tier, but important to max. That's just like it says. It's either, not a top mod, but it's going to be pretty generally useful, so you'll want to max it. Or it's really strong, but it's a little too situational to say this is important on everything. Or it's something where maybe it's not like super strong and maybe not like generally useful, but it does need to be maxed in order to be useful. And it's good enough that it doesn't fall into one of these lower categories. Big value. This is just like good mods. This is going to be a lot of general stuff that you'll use on different, frames or guns or whatever. Stuff you're just using a lot, but it's not like the one you want to rush first. Situationally important. This is something that like maybe a particular build uses it, or maybe a particular game mode you're going to want it for, like maybe Archon build or something like that, anti-Archon build. So it's good, but probably not something you want to max first, um, unless it's a specific build that you're really interested in. You do want to be a little careful that you don't invest too much endo here and then like decide that you don't care about that build anymore, and then you're like, uh-oh, I don't have other mods. So don't like go crazy on this just because you like the build. The endo farm in this game takes a long time, and so like your what matters is going to be different by the time you're at the end of that than it is right now. So like this tier list is something you should, I'm thinking about this as something you should prioritize right now, but like 2 or 3 years from now, the game's probably going to look really different. Um, assuming it's still, around and people are still playing it, which I think it probably will be. Um, but uh, yeah, it's basically like things are going to change, so don't like put too much importance on this because some things, that are important now weren't important that long ago. And some things that were important, a lot of things that used to be really important are just not that big a deal anymore. And then good but not important to max. This is stuff that like it's good. Maybe it could fall into the big value tier, but it's just not that good. Or it may be something that doesn't like multiply very much. Um, so like it's something that is really valuable, but not like, it doesn't have to be maxed. You can get most of the value out of it at like a rank 8. Um, then we have situational and not important for stuff that, some things will use it, but they don't really care. It's not a big deal. And then not important, which is below the situational and not important, you'll notice. Um, the Basically the logic here is situational and not important. It's not that good, but there are uses for it. It's just that it doesn't have uses. Or I mean maybe it does, but like you're not gonna want to max it before the things above it. It's it's not that big a deal. And then there's a special one down here that says keep it at base rank. There are some mods where like leveling them up is actually not what you want to do. They're just as good at base rank as they are um, higher up, and so you don't need to level it. Although some of those you can, and you'd still get benefit out of them. Like, actually, let's take a look. We got a bunch of stuff to cover, by the way. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, 141 mods. So we got a bunch to cover. I will try not to belabor the ones that are, you know, not that critical. But first up, adaptation. I'm putting that in keep it at base rank. Though that said, I think I'm going to add a second adaptation in here. Let me go find that. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we got a second adaptation because I want to put this on here twice. Because sometimes you do want to max adaptation. I think putting this in situationally important is maybe a little bit too much. Uh, but like base rank 0 adaptation is still pretty good. You can get up to the same maximum, but it goes up slower, which does matter, and the duration on it is lower, which also matters. So for some builds, you can, you don't really care. You can just run base rank adaptation. Some builds you do want to run a max rank adaptation, but I would not do it. I wouldn't rank it up above some other stuff. Um, in fact, there's a case to be made that it belongs in here. We're going to see how full these get. I may move this down. And another thing, um, the tiers are going to be ordered, but like with this many mods, it's going to be a pretty general order. Um, okay, let's take a look at amalgam serration. I'm going to put that in situational and not important. Actually, no, I'm going to say good but not important to max. Um, this is good, uh, but it's not that big a deal. Adding the sprint speed is nice. You can do some good things with that. Use your primary as a stat stick. Um, but it's just not that important. I know people are going to be like, oh yeah, that's actually really valuable. But in terms of like, where should you put your endo? In this or regular serration? Regular serration for sure. All right, Archon continuity. I'm going to say situational and not important. Uh, the toxin procs turning into corrosive procs are actually good. So for example, I use that on my citrine build because citrine makes all of your damage deal toxin procs with the gem, and therefore it does corrosive procs. But this is a lot more narrow than it looks, and it's just generally, not as good as it looks. Regular continuity, prime continuity is going to be better. That's what you'll use on the majority of your builds. But every once in a while, you'll find a place for this one. Archon Flow, we're going to put that in not important. This one gives energy. Technically, there are builds that can use it, but they are very narrow. You're going to have to think real hard about how to use that. Uh, and I should also note for these Archon mods, if you don't have primed flow because Barrow hasn't brought it yet, um, that does push these up a little bit because Archon flow and Archon continuity can substitute in for those. They give, the same benefit. They're just a little bit more costly. Um, so like you can use them as a substitute, but they are not as good as the real thing for most builds. Archon Intensify, I'm also going to put in here. This does look good, but last I checked, and admittedly it has been a while, the specific behavior of it does not play nice. It doesn't work the way you want it to. It does not refresh, so the buff has to fall off. There has to be a period of not having the buff, and then you have to get the buff again. And if you are at full health and you get healed, or you heal something at full health, this does not apply. It doesn't work. And even if you are at slightly below full health, just chip damage or like combat discipline damage, and you get healed, if you get healed quickly enough, Archon Intensify will not trigger even though you've been healed, which I think is a bug. I think this whole mod needs to be, the restrictions on it need to be loosened a little bit to make it better. Because as it is, I don't know. I've got it maxed. I don't think it's that good. I use it. I've got a Wisp build and an Oberon build that use it, but for the most part, this is not the mod that I go to. Regular Intensify is going to be a better bet in most cases, and regular Intensify isn't even on this list. Oh, I should say, these are all the rank 10 mods because basically like mods that go, well, rank 10 and rank 8. That's ribbon mods. But mods that don't go up to rank 10 just because of the way mod costs work, that they don't matter that much. Actually, let me show you what I mean. I'm going to flip back into the game for a moment here. What do we have? Yeah, here we go. This is a good one. I'm not going to be able to do that in here. Let's go back to the relay. Basically, when you level up a mod, the cost doubles to go to the next level. It costs as much as it took to take it to the current level to go to the next level. And so, what was that? Bane of Corpus. So to go to rank 1, it's 40 Endo, 120, 280, 600, 1240. So going to rank 8 costs 10,000 Endo. So this is where I recommend you put most of your mods. And so for mods on this tier list, bringing them up to rank 8 is kind of like, that's fine. This is like, which ones do you max? Um, and like Archon Flow, Archon Intensify, you probably don't even need to bring those to rank 8. Uh, but you can if you want. Um, but going up to rank 8 is 10,000 Endo, and you get the majority of the effect. Going to rank 10 is 4,000, 41,000 Endo. That's 4 times as much, and you don't get that much. So the question is, which of these mods do you take? I mean, you can see this one. I've got Bane of Infested at rank 6, right? So like, I've got a lot of, whoops, a lot of Endo here. You know, 97,000 Endo. Um, but I'm still, you know, there's a bunch of mods that I'm not maxing. It's just not that big a deal. Haven't really found a use for it. So I should have said that at the start, but we're not editing. We're doing this all in one take. Archon Stretch. I'm gonna say we're gonna put that in. Actually, let me check one thing. Give me just a moment here. Yeah, okay. We're gonna say good but not important to max. And the reason why I say that is because, you know, getting the bonus here, the range is good. But when you want it, you're gonna want it because of the electricity effect giving you energy. There are a bunch of frames that can take advantage of this. Gyre or Wisp, or you know, various other frames will be able to use this, and they can get energy passively, and that's nice. And the amount of energy you get does not depend on the rank, so that's nice. You could even have another one that's base rank for a frame where you don't really care about the range. Um, but we're going to say that's good. Archon Vitality. We're going to say situationally important. There are a lot of this is another one where we're going to want another copy of it. Let me hold on a moment. Let me add in another one of these because, like with Archon Stretch, you can leave this thing at base rank, and you'll still get the additional effect of doubling or adding an additional heat proc to your abilities. Um, so you want to have a base rank 1 for some frames where your health just doesn't matter. Um, but like ultimately you can have a max rank 1, or you can have one that is high rank. You do not need to max this. Which actually I think, you know what, I'm gonna put this here. We're gonna do that like that. Um, just because like eight rank Archon Vitality, even for a frame that does care about health, that's probably fine. And if you have a frame that doesn't care about health, you don't care about that. Uh, but there are a lot of frames that do heat status, and for heat status, having more uh, effects, more copies of the effect, it just is linear improvement in your damage. So you want that. That's good. Bite. We're gonna say, how do I do this? I'm gonna say situational. There are builds that care about companion damage, um, like Korra. You can build Venari to like wipe out enemies. Those Dedicants and Juguluses and even the Heavy Gunners. Well, I mean, Heavy Gunners are the weakest of those. But you can build a Venari build that will just destroy an entire stack of those things. And Bite is used in that, and it's important. So you know, for some builds it matters, but like It's not that important. Bleeding Edge. This is Arch Melee. We're putting that in not important. Blind Rage. Is that S tier? I think we're putting that in not S tier, but important to max. Um, you could say this is big value, but I think this is important. This is the single biggest ability strength mod that exists in the game right now, I think. Um, I guess there's precision intensify, but even that I think is only 90. Um, so I don't think it's as big as this even. So I think this is the one. You don't need to max it. It's still really good if it is just rank 8. And you don't stack multipliers together so much on your ability strength. Ability strength is pretty additive for the most part. So I would keep it out of S tier. It's not like critical if it's not maxed. Um, but it's good. It may go up. We'll see. Blood Rush. That's interesting. I'm not sure where I would put this. Years ago, this would have gone in like S plus 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 or something, in a tier of its own. Uh, but these days, I don't think it's as important. And I think a lot of the builds that we do with melee, both we are no longer maxing our combo count and then sitting there the way we used to. We're doing like slam builds and that sort of thing. And so Blood Rush isn't as big a deal for those. And we have other ways to get critical chance that we didn't used to have. Um, and we have other ways to deal damage that don't rely on critical chance, with status being better. So I think we're actually leaving the Blood Rush here, which is a little surprising, but that's how it goes. Brute conditioning, that is not important. Let's see here. Can I find the other one of these? Because there's one of these for each damage type. Precision conditioning. This goes up to situational. One of these goes up to situational. I think it's precision conditioning. I'm not 100% sure on that. Where's the last one of those? So I can just talk about all of those at once. Um, I don't know. We'll find it. Uh, so this converts your melee damage on your beast claws to uh, impact damage or slash damage, and there's one for puncture also. And this doesn't really matter. There is, in fact, a use for it. Like I said, on the Venari build, I run precision conditioning because you can convert all of your physical damage into slash and get 385% melee damage. And then you can convert it all into heat with burning claws, which actually I'm going to put on here as well at the same time because that's also, a part of this build. And you can do that. These stack together. This and this do not stack together. This and like other elemental mods do not stack together, but these two do. So you put the burning claws on, and then you can also put precision conditioning on, and those will stack together. Um, this is somewhat narrow. Putting this here may actually be a little bit too generous to it. And putting this one here may be a little too generous, but I don't want to make like another, trash tier here. We don't need that. We got enough tiers, I think. Um, so that's yeah, there's a build that uses this. Same with this one, and this is just generally useful. but like companion damage is not really a big deal, and it's fine. You know, you just don't need to worry about it. Calculated redirection. We're putting that here. It's nice. You don't need to max it. Cautious shot. Well, if we were gonna have another tier below not important, that would go down there. Because that's trash. This used to be better because it would reduce the damage that you took from your own AoE weapons. Back when friendly fire was a thing, this actually mattered quite a bit, if I remember correctly. But that is not a thing, and this is still a 10 rank mod. It should be a 4 rank mod or something like that. Um, do not put your endo into this. Also, one note, um, even if this is rank 8, it's not going to protect you nearly as much as you think. Because if you shoot like a Tonkor at your feet, each of the explosions from your multi-shot rolls to stagger you separately. So if it's at 80%, if it's at rank 8 or whatever rank 8 works out to, uh, there's a pretty good chance it's not 80% that you're not going to be staggered. It's going to be like 50% that you're not staggered. So even at rank 8, this is kind of just not good. It's not a good investment. Cutting edge. Arch melee, these just are not good. I guess there is a situation where they're good, and that is on the Bone Widow Necramech. You use these and they're relevant. Um, but Bone Widow is not the Necramech for the most part. That's not the one, and these just are not that good. Energizing shot. This lets you shoot energy orbs to collect them, and it also increases their effect. Um, that's nice, but at rank 0, it has 0 drain. It costs nothing to equip, and that's where you should keep it. If you put it in rank 1, uh, you increase the amount of energy that you recover when you uh, shoot an energy orb, um, but it costs you mod capacity. And so then, 90% of this thing's value is in just being able to shoot energy orbs, pick up energy orbs by shooting them. Um, and also being able to slot that into any build where you have a spare slot or an Exilus slot. It doesn't even care about mod polarity. So you, you know, eventually maybe you're going to buy one of these and rank it up just for the meme build or something. But you're going to still want a base rank 1. Uh, Now, I mean, that said, this is a pretty situational effect anyway. It doesn't really matter. It's, you know, if you could use it on AoE weapons, maybe it would matter a little bit more. But you specifically are not allowed to use it on AoE weapons, so you can't do that. It's just, it's not very good, and ranking it up doesn't really give you anything. All right, enhanced vitality. We're going to put that in situational and not important. We're going to also put uh, these behind the health mods because those are more valuable. Keeping your companions alive is more valuable than making them do damage. Equilibrium. I'm going to say a big value on this one. A case could be made that it should move up. But even getting 80% of this value, which I think it's a 90% conversion rate, that's still pretty good. And these days we have Violet Archon shards that can replicate the effect. And so if you do need more equilibrium, you can slot one of those. And if you need less equilibrium, well, then you don't care that it's rank 8, or you can slot a Violet Archon shard. So I think this is really good. I would strongly recommend getting one of these to rank 8. In fact, I'm going to put that in front of Bloodlust or Blood Rush, but it is not critical to take it up to 10. Firewalker, that's not important. I'm going to put one of these up a tier, but that one is not the one. Galvanized Acceleration. This is maybe not the correct place. I think this may belong in not important. But I'm going to put it up because that does matter for some weapons. Galvanized Acceleration gives your projectiles more speed and thus more range. And for shotguns, a lot of shotguns have really poor range. So increasing the range of the weapon actually does meaningfully increase its damage. So I'm going to put that in situational, but like it's really situational. Galvanized Aptitude. I think this may be our first actual S. And the reason is, on a lot of weapons, Galvanized Aptitude uh, basically it multiplies against other sources of base damage. And so on those weapons, it is irreplaceable. It's a unique multiplicative effect, and you get it basically just for building your weapon. These days, doing status effects is very common. They're good and easy to do. And Galvanized Aptitude helps you do status effects more, and it gives you damage for doing them. There are other weapons that are not multiplicative, but you can run Galvanized Aptitude instead of Serration, and it'll do more than Serration would do on a lot of weapons. And so I'm probably going to put this above Serration even, though to be honest, no, I probably should put Serration above this because Serration, although I think Galvanized Aptitude is better, it is more expensive to max, so I would do Serration first. This is not how good they are. This is which ones should you max first. And Serration being cheaper, you should max before Galvanized Aptitude. Galvanized Chamber. We're going to put this in not S tier, but important to max. This is another multiplier, but it is not a unique multiplier. You can run the regular split chamber and get, a bunch of this effect. And there are some other ways to get multi-shot depending on the weapon. For rifles, it is still basically the best multi-shot mod for most guns that can equip it, so it's still very important, but I think it falls a little bit out of the S tier. Galvanized Crosshairs. We're putting that in situational, though I think it's at the top of situational. This is the critical damage on secondaries, which is quite good. You get a lot of, or critical chance on secondaries while aiming. You get a lot of critical chance on it. But it's not actually that important. It's more like after you have all of your other mods maxed, this is like your 7th or 8th mod on the build, and then it pushes it to the next level, but it's not that important. Galvanized Diffusion, that is the multi-shot for secondaries. We're going to put that in big value. Secondaries do have a good diffusion mod to begin with, and they also have Amalgam Diffusion, which is a very nice mod that I think people don't run as much as they should. So there are competitors in this slot, and there are a lot of secondaries where it's not as important to do the additional damage or additional multi-shot with them. You do want this. This is important. If you are using a beam weapon for status application, this does actually make a big difference. Like for a heat inherit build, this is really good. Um, I would put this above situationally good because it's not only good for the heat inherit builds, it's just good in general. But it does have a specific situational application. Um, but in any event, strong mod, something to pick up. This is Galvanized Elementalist. That's basically the same kind of mod as Galvanized Aptitude, but I'm going to put it lower. It does status damage instead of raw damage, and status damage is good. Not everything is going to be doing, not all your melees are going to be doing status damage. So this, if you have like a glaive or a Zorus or a Falcor, you're going to want to use this on it because they will use status damage. Um, but it's not for everything. But I think it's still better than being situational. Galvanized Hell. In fact, I'm going to put that above Diffusion. This is the shotgun one, and I'm going to put it down a little bit. Uh, I think there's a case to be made that this could go up to S tier, but I'm a little bit more down on it than I think some people. I think the base Hell mod, I forget what the name of it is, but the base shotgun mod for multi-shot is really good. And this one, Galvanized Hell is also good. Uh, and it does put your builds a little bit over the top compared to the base mod. Um, but again, it's not an irreplaceable effect. And shotguns having a high multi-shot to begin with makes having a significant bump to the multi-shot less important than it is for rifles, in my opinion. If you like shotguns, feel free to put this up above rifles. Or if you don't like rifles, feel free to put rifles down. What you like. Um, so I may be in the abstract. Objectively, I may be ranking this a little bit less. But this is how I feel about them. Galvanized Reflex. We're going to put that here. This is a melee mod that gives you base combo chance. This is not a unique effect, but getting this much of it is unique. If you're going to do a base combo build, you are going to have to run this mod. There's no way around it, even if you don't use the heavy attack efficiency. Well, I shouldn't say there's no way around it, but it's pretty important to those builds. And like I said, with Blood Rush, in fact, actually, you know what? I should put this above Blood Rush because this is better than Blood Rush. And I'm going to put Galvanized Hell above Blood Rush too. But I said with Blood Rush, it's not so important because we're doing other build types. This is the other build type. Galvanized Savvy. This is the shotgun version of Galvanized Aptitude, and I'm going to put it up in S tier actually, because like with the Galvanized Aptitude, there are some weapons that have a multiplication effect on them, and for those that get multiplied, the condition overload is the term the community uses for it, or gun CO is what people also say. For those weapons, this is an irreplaceable and critical effect. Galvanized Scope. Where did I put? Yeah, crosshairs. We're going to put that here. I find galvanized crosshairs a little bit more useful than galvanized scope. I don't know why, actually. Um, there must be some reason why, but actually, no, I shouldn't say that. I bet I use galvanized scope more than I use galvanized crosshairs in my builds. Just because guns or rifles are more damage dealing, whereas pistols are more likely to be status chance weapons, that kind of thing. But it's basically the same. Galvanized shot. I'm going to put that down in not S tier, but important to max. Again, it's the same as these other two, but there's just less in the pistol field where it's actually that important. And then galvanized steel, that goes up in the S tier as well. That is the critical mod for melee. Again, I mentioned Blood Rush is less important these days because we have alternatives to it now. This is one of the alternatives. Galvanized Steel, giving you both critical chance and critical damage on the same mod is a big deal. That matters a lot. And so on melee builds, you can do things with this that you would not be able to do with Blood Rush alone. Healing Return, it's trash. If I had another lower tier, I would put it there. This used to be good. It used to actually be somewhat relevant, but it's just not good anymore. Heavy Caliber. We're going to put that in situational, but it's very situational. There are some weapons where having less accuracy helps. Not a lot of them, but they do exist. And for those weapons, you may want to run Heavy Caliber, but I would never max this before Serration or anything like that. Anything up here, these get to rank 8 and max them long before I would ever consider, leveling up Heavy Caliber past like rank 6. Hornet Strike. We're going to put that in big value. Again, it's not quite as critical because like Galvanized Shot exists. So a lot of weapons secondaries would use this instead. And that's both because it does damage, it replaces the effect, or it's a different copy of the effect. And also because it gives status chance, which if you have a prime or secondary, you're going to want it for the status chance. Although a lot of them you can actually use Sure Shot, the basic uncommon mod that isn't rank 10, on your status primer, and you're going to be perfectly happy. There are builds I have where I'm running Sure Shot instead of my rank 10 Galvanized Shot, literally just because the extra 10% of status chance is more important than the damage. But Galvanized Shot, I think that's more important than Hornet Strike. Hornet Strike is cheaper, so that's something to consider. However, I think pistols being less about damage dealing sort of balances that out. If you are going to use a frame that uses an exalted secondary, like Mesa, for example, that would push this up a little bit, possibly even above Galvanized Shot, although maybe not, depends on the build. Like if you have a Mesa build where you are using secondary Encumber and Galvanized Shot, you would not want Hornet Strike at that point because it's additive on the Peacemakers or on the Regulators. But that's how it goes. Hyperion Thrusters. I'm going to put this here. This is, I think, in terms of drain, the single most expensive mod in the game. It takes, if I remember correctly, it takes 20 mod capacity. And all it does is it increases your speed on your Archwings. And Archwings are kind of narrow. What are you actually doing with them? Well, what you're doing with them is you're using them to move from one place to another. And so increase the speed, that's important. It's situational. It only matters when you're in your Archwing, but it matters. Ice Spring. I'm going to put that in situational. Where do I want to put that? I'm going to put it ahead of Heavy Caliber. You're probably going to want one of these mods. There's Ice Spring, Firewalker is a fire version, and then there's an electric and a cold version also. Or an electric and a toxin version. And the reason I'm saying Ice Spring is because it does a status that debuffs enemies, it slows them. And so that, that's better than lighting them on fire. Firewalker just messes with your heat inherit builds, so that's not great. Ice Spring, slowing and applying cold to enemies is probably the way to go for one of these, but it's not that important. Juice. Oh man, I think we're putting that here. Um, let me make sure that I am remembering which mod this is. Yeah, this gives you um, energy while you're riding your K drive and doing tricks. So it gives your Warframe energy. So for open worlds, this is really nice to keep your energy up in between, different segments when you're going from one uh, place to another. You can regenerate your energy while you're doing it. If you're on a Warframe that's energy hungry or you don't have another good way to restore your energy, this can be useful. Getting it up to rank 6 or rank 8, you're going to get the majority of the effect out of it, and that's going to be really good. Um, but like ultimately, you don't need to max it, and K drives are pretty narrow, so this is not important. Lasting Sting. I'm going to put that here, situationally important, and that might be a little bit high for it, but it is status duration, and it's about the only way to get status duration on a melee. So if you have a very heavy melee status build, like if you're using a melee primer or a heat inherit on your melee, something like that. Um, Heat inherit, if you don't know what that is, go look it up on YouTube or something. I'm not going to explain it here. It's really complicated, but it's a way of making heat status effects deal big damage. Um, but even then, a lot of heat inherit builds will not use lasting sting because they're just going to kill whatever they're targeting. They don't need the status to last longer than it already does. Actually, it might even be better on like electricity uh, builds than on heat. In any event, I think it's good. I probably think it's better than most people think, um, but it's not a big deal. Lightning Dash. This is the other one of these. I'm going to put these here, but only pick one of them. In fact, actually, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put it down here with the other one. But just know, Lightning Dash, you can either do Ice Spring or Lightning Dash. Those are pretty equivalent. I think I actually have Lightning Dash maxed and not Ice Spring because that's the one that I got. So that's the one that I put my points into. Um, but I think Ice Spring is probably better. Link Fiber. That doesn't matter. We're going to put it a little bit up because it's better than Cautious Shot. And you know what? Both of those are too. It's better than that too. And that. Yeah. But this just gives armor to your companion. That's not very good. Link Redirection. I'm going to put this right behind Calculated Redirection. They're good in different situations. You probably do not need both of them. And Link Redirection is not so important to max. I would put Link Redirection down a little bit compared to Calculated Redirection, but I'm just keeping them here just to keep them here. The reason why Link Redirection is relevant is because some builds you can enable Reinforced Bond to give the fire rate bonus on a companion that would not get the fire rate bonus with Calculated Redirection. So if your Calculated Redirection is not high enough to give a fire rate bonus with Reinforced Bond, but your Link Redirection and your Warframe's shields are high enough to do that, then it's good. Link Vitality, similar thing. It replicates the effect, and it's probably worse. But there are some times when it matters. If you have a Warframe with 10,000 health, giving your companion, you know, that link, that's going to be a big boost for your companion. Magnum Force. I'm going to put this down with heavy caliber, but actually it probably belongs down in not important because, again, it's just not a big deal, and secondaries are going to want it less. Oh, right, and Hornet Strike gives 220 damage. This one only gives 165. So yeah, this goes down in not important. Got to remember about that. Maul. Where did I put Bite? We're going to put that here. Basically, for the same reason Bite is here, Maul is here. Yeah, I think Bite is probably more important to max first because it gives both crit chance and crit damage. So that's a multiplier, double multiplier on the same mod versus just melee damage, which is a single additive effect. But these are pretty similar. You don't need them if you are doing a build that has um, is trying to do damage with your companions, then yeah, you're going to want to level that up. Otherwise, doesn't really matter. Mending Shot. This goes right with Energizing Shot, and for the same basic reasons. You can use this with Equilibrium to get energy out of your health orbs, I think that helps. But I don't believe the added bonus applies to the energy you get out of the health orb. I believe it just adds the 110% to your health. It doesn't increase the amount that the health orb is doing. Hold on a moment here. There we go. Let's turn Discord off. I don't know why people are talking to me. Metal fiber, that goes down here somewhere. Yeah, it goes probably behind link fiber actually, because if you want a high armor on your companions, there's probably a reason for it. You're probably using a Warframe that has a very high armor, and you want to pass that on to your companions. Companion armor generally is not high enough that even the 200 or 250 or whatever it is on metal fiber matters. Narrow-minded. We're going to put this up here. Again, this is very similar to Blind Rage in that it is the biggest single ability duration buff you can get. Downsides are it's a little bit worse because duration doesn't matter quite as much as strength for most builds, and losing range hurts. There are a lot of builds that really want range, and ability range is actually very difficult to get. There is a limited number of ways to get ability range, much more so than like ability strength or even duration. And so that, does restrict its effectiveness a little bit. But there are a lot of Warframes that really want duration and do not care about the range. And for those, this is very big. Pistol Acuity. We're going to put that here, I think. It's good. You can put this on like the Latum, for example, if you're doing a crit build with it. And that's quite a lot of damage. And it's multiplicative with a lot of things. And it's just overall a really strong mod. But it is narrow. Taking off your multi-shot for your secondaries, that hurts because that really reduces the amount of status you can apply. Um, and it's just not applicable to a lot of weapons. Uh, it's not quite good enough to go into situationally important, but it's a little too good to be in situational and not important. It's a little more important than that. Preparation. I'm going to put that in situational and not important, but we're going to put it at the top of that, actually. Preparation is really good. Um, there are a lot of missions where you're going to go into the mission and run through the mission, and then you leave. And it's going to take a minute. And it's all well and good to have a build that can like sustain itself and, have good energy economy and all that sort of stuff. But like there's a lot of the time when it just doesn't matter to have that. You can just go through the mission and you only really need to cast your buffs once or twice, maybe an ability or two, and that's all you need. So for those builds, having preparation and letting you start with your maximum energy is very helpful. That said, you do not need to max this um, by any means. Uh, at max, it has 100% of your maximum energy is filled. But most builds, if you put this on at rank 8, they're going to have either max or very close to max energy anyway, because you still get your base energy filled that you get normally. This doesn't take that away. So like when you spawn into a mission, you'll have, 100 energy or whatever it is, on the build. And so then you get the preparation energy on top of that. And so for that, let's say you have 300 energy. If you have a base 100 energy and then 80% of 300, which is 240 energy, you're going to start the mission with 300 energy. Those extra points, even going to rank 8, it's probably not a big deal. Doesn't matter. So you do not need to max this. It is probably not relevant to max. If you've got even more energy, like if you have 1,000 energy on it, again, you aren't going to start with max energy at a rank 8 preparation, but you're going to start with a huge amount of energy, and it doesn't matter so much. So, this mod can be very useful, but you don't need to worry about maxing it. Primary acuity. I'm going to put this in situationally important. For some builds, this is a key component to how they do damage, but not all of them, and not everybody likes this mod. Not everybody likes playing with it. It is an irreplaceable effect. It's the only way to get this effect. And so, if you're doing that build, this is what you need. But it is not something you're going to put on everything. It doesn't work on anything that's AoE. If it's something that's not very accurate, it's not going to help you very much because you're just not going to be able to hit the weak points. But it's just a strong effect. Primed ammo stock. We're going to put this in situational and not important. We're going to put that here. There are some guns. Actually, we're going to put that behind Archon continuity. You know what? We're actually going to put that behind the vitality. There are some guns where this matters. In fact, you know what? I'm going to put Archon continuity behind the vitality mods also. Companion vitality is nice. And you know what? Let me put the galvanized mods here behind that. I think that's good. I'd max, one of calculated redirection. And maybe not max though. I think maybe not max. Uh, I would level up one of the one of the redirection and one of the vitality mods before I level up the galvanized mods, but I would max one of, these before those. So it's a little bit, there's a little bit of play in this. This is not a precise science. I am putting 140 different mods on this chart. That's just there's going to be some squishiness in what's happening here. Anyway, primed ammo stock. There are some guns where this 110% magazine capacity is really good, and you're going to want that, but not all of them. So just be aware that that's a thing. Primed animal instinct. I'm gonna put that. I'm gonna put that up at the top of this. This is a very generally useful mod. You can put it on your companion, and you get the loot radar and the enemy radar, and that's really good. Uh, Maxing it does matter because the area increases much more than you would think, but it's not important to max. You can leave this at rank 8 for a long time, and it'll do very well for you. Okay, so we got some Bane mods here, and I'm going to put these all in the same place, though they are kind of, some of these are more important than others. Uh, I'm honestly not sure which ones are the most important these days. It used to be Bane of Orokin, at the time Bane of Corrupted was the most important. I'm not sure that is still the case today. I'm going to put that one here, that one in Bane of Murmur. Then we're going to do Bane of Grineer because they've got a lot of hit points. Bane of Corpus because I still find sisters more difficult to deal with than the Coda enemies. So I'm going to put that like that. These are situationally important. These are an irreplaceable effect. You cannot get this anywhere else. Well, that's not true. I mean, you can get like Roar and stuff like that. And so that does diminish the effects a little bit. But not everybody can run Roar. Not everybody has access to this. For the things that it does help, it is, as a 7th or 8th mod, it is better than almost anything else you can do. And on some builds, if you're doing a status build that doubles or especially triple dips in the faction damage, they become very important. You can do 2 and even 3 times additional damage with these mods on builds like that. And so that makes a big difference. And if you're using one of those builds, you're going to want to use one of these. But also, it is very annoying to juggle them. And so if you don't do any of these, if you leave all these at base rank, it honestly doesn't matter. You don't need to worry about it. And like, would I take one of these up to rank 8 before primed animal instinct? No, probably not. But be aware that they are one of the biggest damage increases in the game for specific builds. Primed charge shell, that goes up here. 165 shotgun elemental damage is extremely good. It multiplies off of your base damage. It multiplies off of critical damage. It's a huge individual effect. The only downside to it is you've also got primed chilling grasp for shotguns. So you have 2 different options, which means you have 2 different mods you have to level up. And so, you know, I think they're, you want one of these to level and eventually max. You don't need both of them, but you do want one of them. And then we have the cleanse mods. That is for shotguns. I'm going to put those right below the um, rifle mods and in the same order. Infested. Another thing about the infested versus corpus. Corpus have more relevant bosses than infested do, in my opinion. A lot of the infested bosses are older and they're just kind of damage sponges and they have a lot of invulnerability phases and it doesn't really matter how much damage you do to them. Corpus bosses like Exploiter Orb or Profit Taker Orb, this matters a little bit more for those. Cleanse Orokin, we're going to put that there, and cleanse the Murmur. And I'm putting Murmur up front just because I think, those are relevant enemies that we are fighting a lot. They are some of the harder content, so it matters more. And we are probably going to get more of those in the future. So I think, I expect we're going to see a big and difficult Murmur section of the game added before we see a big and difficult Orokin or Grineer or any of these other ones. All right, primed continuity. I'm actually going to put that in front of narrow-minded. Duration is not as important, but there are only so many sources of it, and primed continuity is one of the best sources. Primed convulsion. This is for pistols. I'm actually going to put it down here because, again, doing damage with pistols is not as important. And a lot of pistols where you do deal damage with them, electricity is actually not going to be the element. It's going to be heat. And so, I find this mod less helpful than the heat mod, which is also available for pistols. And even on weapons where I want an electricity mod, a lot of the time the mod I want is the 60/60 mod because again it gives the status chance on it. Primed counterbalance. This is a new one. I actually don't own this one. So I could be rating this incorrectly, but I think we're going to put this here. I think this is, hold on, let me look just so I'm sure. This is, yeah, the shotgun mod. There are definitely some shotguns that, have recoil. Shotguns are a little bit less likely than like rifles to have really strong recoil that you're like just holding the trigger down and fighting. But they've got their recoil, and so reducing that can help. Primed cryo rounds. I almost want to put it in front of galvanized chamber, but I think I'm not gonna. I'm going to leave that here. I put this on a lot of builds. 165 cold being a 165 multiplier against base damage, and everything else against galvanized aptitude when that's a multiplier, or when you're only using galvanized aptitude, it's a multiplier against multi-shot, against critical damage. It's just really good. Rifles only have one of these mods, and so that's the one, and that's an important one. Prime deadly efficiency. I think it goes here. I think it actually goes in front of the melee weapons. Actually, no, I'm not going to say that because these are the only places to get this effect. Whereas primed ruby-aligned barrel is the one I'm thinking of, exists, and that's probably better than this for most cases. Primed dual rounds. Where is my top archgun mod? I think I'm going to put that here, actually. Basically, multi-shot is not easy to get on archguns. This is a pretty good amount of it. There's no galvanized mod for archguns or anything like that. So yeah, that's pretty good. With archguns being more relevant than they once were, that actually matters. Yeah, so that's going there. Now we have some expel mods. These are the Bane mods for the pistols. And it's the same thing for all of these as it was for the other two weapons. We're going to put that in the, again, exact same order. I don't think there's a reason to put these in a different order. But I think the pistol mods are worse than the rifle or shotgun versions of the mods. Primed fast hands, I don't think this is good enough to go above not important. I'm going to put that. No, you know what? We're going to put that down there. I'm going to put that down there. No, I changed my mind. I actually I like that. There are cases where I might want to use this, but in those cases, I am probably going to really wish that I had a better option. I'm not happy with 55% reload speed. That's actually not nearly as much as you might think. So it's going to make me a little sad to use, but here it is. Primed Fever Strike. We're putting that right up here. It's a powerful mod. It makes powerful status effects. Melee only gets one of these, same as rifles. I think it's a little bit worse than Prime Cryo rounds, but we're putting it up here because it's still really good. Primed Firestorm. Where to put this? I think I'm going to put it here. And the reason is because for some builds, like if you're doing a weapon that has a big AoE to begin with, and you're doing like a grouping AoE build, this doesn't matter. But there are a lot of weapons where having just increased AoE actually matters. And for those weapons, this is an irreplaceable effect. Having because again this is an area, or actually it's a volume, so it's a cubic increase. The 44% actually matters a lot more than you might think. So this is one where leveling it up makes a difference, and even taking it to 10 makes a difference. But it is a little bit situational. It's not quite, so situational. It's not quite weak enough to push it down into the just value tier or situationally important tier. I think it is actually, really good. Maybe I'm looking at these mods. Maybe it is actually. Equilibrium. No, I think I should keep it here. Just be aware that it is situational, and bringing this up to 6, you're not going to get the full value out of it. Even bringing it up to 8, you're not necessarily going to get the full value out of it. This is not necessarily better than Equilibrium, and you don't even necessarily want to max it before Equilibrium. But I would bring Equilibrium up to rank 8 before this. But I would probably max this before I maxed Equilibrium, even with the additional cost of this being a legendary mod and Equilibrium being an uncommon. Primed Flow, that goes right here. This is very good, valuable effect. It is only held back by the fact that you can rank 8 it and then just leave it at rank 8. You do not need to max this. Basically, it's pretty good, but and a lot of builds want this, so it goes on a lot of Warframes. Um, but it is a legendary. It costs a lot to max, and taking it to rank 8 or even rank 9 gets you most of the way there. There aren't a lot of frames where having 160% energy bonus is, significantly worse than a 185% energy bonus or whatever the difference is. But it's a good mod. I strongly recommend bringing that up to rank 8. Maybe that's what I should have done. Maybe I should have put this in, like, bring it to rank 8, max it, that kind of thing. That feels like that would, like, balloon the number of these that I've got, and then it would be hard to compare between different ones. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. If you think you would prefer splitting them out into, like, take this to rank 8, take it to rank 10, whatever. If you think that would help or be more valuable, please let me know in the comments, and let me know what uh, what tiers you would say you want to see. Primed Fulmination, we're putting that up here, and for basically the same reason. Big reason why this is up here is it goes on Epitaph. And it gives Epitaph a bigger AoE, which increases the range or increases the size that Epitaph can prime enemies in. So very good for that. Primed Fury. I'm going to put that here. Attack speed is good. Melee weapons can basically linearly scale with attack speed since they don't have ammo. And, like, it doesn't really, they don't care about ammo. It doesn't really have a lot of downsides to it, like increasing your fire rate does on weapons, uh, on guns, I should say. Um, but there are other ways to get attack speed now, and, like, melee weapons where you're just swinging, you're just, holding down your attack button to use them are not as common as they once were. Like with Blood Rush dropping down a little bit. This used to be higher up the list in my mind, but it just isn't as relevant as it once was. Primed Heated Charge. That goes, in fact, I think that actually goes here. And it goes here specifically because of heat inherit builds, where Primed Heated Charge lets pistols be better as a heat inherit primer effectively. It doesn't, heat inherit's weird. It doesn't work exactly like normal priming, but it makes secondaries the go-to for heat inherit builds. It's 165% heat when you're doing damage with secondaries. It's got all the same benefits of prime cryo rounds, but heat is just a better element than cold for the most part, and so it's good. Primed Heavy Trauma. On the other hand, this is not so good. We're actually going to put that there, down below these. You might think that 165 impact should be just as good as Fever Strike's 165 Toxin, but it's not. Um, Impact as a status is not very good still. The 165 is not actually 165 because it's only 165 times the weapon's base impact damage. Um, it doesn't multiply everything correctly. Just it's not as good as you think it is. So it is 165 damage for weapons that have a very high impact damage, where you don't want to have, you don't want to turn that into toxin, or you already have Fever Strike on there and you want, another 165 additive damage. Um, it's good. Uh, but there are other mods that get close to this, and it's just not as good as you think it is. So we're putting that down in situational. Really, a case could be made that it actually belongs in the not important tier, but we're gonna, leave that be. Magazine warp. I'm gonna put that here. Um, Fast hands is down here for 55 reload speed. Magazine warp. I find the magazine capacity is more helpful than the reload speed increase. A lot of rifles have really big magazines and not that big in terms of a reload time. And so, the magazine warp helps more than fast hands would. Conversely, a lot of weapons have, the weapons that have smaller magazines and longer reloads, still magazine warp is going to be better a lot of the time. There are definitely weapons where primed fast hands adds more damage, adds more DPS than magazine warp. But I always find myself being more disappointed by fast hands than I think I'm going to be. Um, that's just how it is. I could sit down and do the math and tell you mathematically which one is better, but realistically, I would not prioritize either of these. These are things you're going to get to eventually. Primed Morphic Transformer. We're going to put that here. Ability strength doesn't do as much as you might want for arc wings. It's just not that good. Wait a minute, is this the one for Archwings? Yeah, it's Archwing mod. Yep. So it's just not as good as you think. Primed Pack Leader. We're gonna put that here. I think Primed Pack Leader is a better mod than these, but you can leave it at a lower rank. It is not critical to max. You can leave this at rank 8 and be very happy. I think mine is actually at rank 6, and I don't even think about leveling it up further. Honestly, you can even use the regular non-primed pack leader for the majority of the things you would use primed pack leader for. This is just it's something that's going to push your build over the top, but it honestly isn't even that much of an improvement. And how many builds matter, how many builds are there where overguard and shields matter on your companions? Not that many. It's nice to keep them alive, but you do not need to max this to keep them alive. Rank 6 or rank 8 will do you just fine. Primed pistol ammo mutation. We're going to put that way down here. There are a couple of pistols that run out of ammo. The Nucor, Kuva Nucor is one of them. It's just not that relevant though. Sometimes, if you're doing a Kuva Nucor build, maybe you want this. You can probably leave it at rank 8, even for that. Primed Pistol Gambit. We're going to put that in the big value. I'm actually going to put that ahead of Hornet Strike. This is a good mod. It is almost as good as the plus 200% critical chance, minus 20% fire rate mod, but it doesn't have the minus 20% fire rate. It's just all upside. It's a very good mod and big value. Primed Point Blank. I don't know where to put this actually. I think we're going to put it ahead of the Firestorm mods. 165 damage on a shotgun is really good. Uh, it does multiply against Galvanized Savvy on a lot of weapons. For those weapons, it's really good to have. Um, However, on a lot of weapons that don't, where it's additive, it doesn't multiply. Galvanized Savvy still gives a lot of bonus damage. And Galvanized Savvy also for shotguns. A lot of shotguns can do a lot of status effects and different status effects. And so Galvanized Savvy is just a really strong mod for those weapons. Primed Pressure Point. We're going to put that down in the big value tier. It's quite good, and you're going to use it a lot. But there are other things that replicate its effect, and it's just not, quite as big a deal as it once was. The inclusion of what do you call it? Arcanes that give damage increase helps push this down a little bit. Also, um, or wait a minute, which one am I thinking? Yeah, like a melee exposure for corrosive damage or that kind of thing. Um, it's still good. You're still going to want to use it when you can, but it's just not the same as it once was. Primed Quick Draw. We're going to put that up right above Magazine Warp. That is minus 88 reload speed, which is better. But not as much better as you might think. Primed Ravage, we're putting that, yeah, right there. Actually, let's put that in front of Prime Pistol Gambit. This is the shotgun critical damage mod. I find it to be quite good. There are a lot of shotguns these days where you're not building critical on them, and so that pushes it down a little bit, but it still goes on a lot of shotguns, and you're going to be pretty happy to have it. Primed Reach. I'm actually putting this down here, which is that's how far the mighty have fallen. But Primed Reach just it's not what it once was. Once I would have put that up in S tier probably, but that's just not the way we're doing damage with our melee or just in general anymore. Not like it once was. Primed Redirection. I'm going to put that here. It's a little bit situational. It kind of straddles the situationally important or situational and not important. I think it's not as generally applicable as primed animal instinct. There are a lot of frames that don't actually care about this, but there are some frames where this makes a difference. Primed regen. Again, once upon a time that would have been a pretty big deal. I'm putting it down here. This is kind of just, it's not the critical mod that it once was. our companions don't die permanently anymore, and so having regen is not as big a deal as it once was. Rifle ammo mutation. I'm going to put that down here. There are not a lot of rifles, not a lot of weapons where this can be equipped, where it really makes a difference. Um, the launcher weapons that can equip this are probably actually even more ammo hungry than this can provide. You need some other solution for your ammo if you're going to use one of those weapons. Um, and there are other solutions for your ammo that just work a lot better than this does. Primed rubedo lined barrel. Where did I put dual rounds? There's dual rounds. I think that doesn't actually rise to that level. We're going to put that. Yeah, let's put that here. This is the, a big individual damage increase for arch guns, and that does matter. But like your build, you're not going to be held back because you have this at rank 8. Um, the only thing that where this matters a lot is the Void Rig Arcabex. And even on that thing, it's fine if it's rank 8. That thing already does an enormous amount of damage. It's not critical to rank that up to max. Shotgun ammo mutation. That I think goes along with pistol ammo mutation. I think a little bit behind. Shotgun, I think there are fewer shotguns that have ammo issues than there are pistols. Primed shred. I think that goes up here. And this, I would not have ranked this as highly not that long ago. But the punch through is just a lot more relevant now than it was. And the fire rate is good. Yeah, there are other ways to get fire rate this much and even more. Like file acceleration gives you 90% fire rate on a rifle and does not cost 16 capacity. It costs 9, if I remember correctly. So that's pretty good, but the punch through does matter a lot, and this is like the best way to get punch through on a rifle. So I'm putting that here. This does not go on every weapon. It probably doesn't go on most rifles, but for the rifles that it does go on, it makes a big difference. And it just, it's a good mod, and it really increases your damage. Primed slip magazine, whereas primed quick draw is pretty good. I think primed slip magazine is not as good. The existence of primed quick draw pushes this down a little bit. And I don't think I use that on a single build. I'm sure there is a build that would use it, but I don't know. Smite Corpus. Where do we have those? Yeah, there they are. I'm gonna put these Smite mods in front of the pistol mods, but behind the shotgun mods. And I guess we don't have a murmur mod yet, huh? That's interesting. And again, it's basically all the same thing, same reason for these. The smite or the melee mods. That's just how it is. Sniper ammo mutation. I'm going to put that up a little bit. Not a huge amount, but a little bit up above these other two. You know what? Actually, I'm going to put that a little bit more. I think this mod, snipers are often pretty low ammo, and so being able to get more ammo, they're also often more single target than other weapons are. So being able to get more ammo is good for them. Primed stabilizer. This is the recoil mod for pistols, I believe. And I'm actually going to put that down here. I don't think it's as relevant for pistols. Let me double check and make sure. Maybe that's the shotgun one. Uh, that's a newer one. Oh no, that's the rifle one. Where is the other one? Was that the shotgun one then? Where did I put that? Sorry, I wouldn't have put it up here. It's got to be in here somewhere. Primed stabilizer. Uh, I don't actually own these, so I can't just easily look them up in game. Don't remember what it's called. Well, I don't know. We're gonna put it where we put it, I guess. Um, yeah. Where where the hell did I put it? Oh, there we go. Counterbalance. There it is. Prime counterbalance. That's the shotgun one then, right? Yeah, that is. Did I think that was the rifle one? Man, I don't know. Now where did I put the other one? Uh, Prime stabilizer. Where did I put it? I'm sure everybody is just shouting at me in your heads. There we go. Because everybody can see it but me. I'm blind. Prime stabilizer. Here we go. So prime stabilizer, I think, is a little bit better. Rifle uh, recoil is a little bit more of a problem than shotgun recoil, but it's not that important. There are definitely some builds that want it. I'm seeing it show up on builds more, but honestly, we have not had this for a long time, and like the normal stabilizer mod already goes to minus 60%. And we could already, with the stabilizer mod and primary deadhead, arcane, we could already zero out our weapon recoil. So like this doesn't give a significant benefit over that. It's just if you're not running deadhead, you can run this to reduce your weapon recoil. So that's nice. And then primed steady hands. Whoops, that's not the right one. I'm going to put that here. I think this is actually belongs probably a tier lower. Actually, I'm going to actually put it a tier lower. We're going to put that down here. I think secondaries have even less of a recoil problem than shotguns or primaries do. Shotguns or rifles do. So I'm just putting that down here along with other stuff that doesn't matter so much anymore. Speaking of other stuff that doesn't matter so much anymore, where did I put the rest of these mods? They should be here. Yep, there they are. So yeah, I guess maybe there's going to be, no, I think cold is going to be better than toxin just because it slows enemies. So like you might want to use the chilling claws to make your pet slow enemies. Um, they're going to be pretty similar. Primed sure-footed, that goes all the way up to the top of S. And I know people are going to say, oh, it's not that important or whatever. Uh, I think you're wrong. It is that important. Um, it is not as important as it once was. There are more ways to get stagger immunity than there once were. There are more ways to survive than there once were. It used to be if you got staggered, you would stop moving. And when you stop moving, enemies have a hidden accuracy debuff. If you are moving, they lose like 60% of their accuracy or something. And so like if you're jumping around, it's really difficult for the enemies to hit you. But if you get staggered, if an enemy shoots you and it staggers you and you drop to the floor and you got to go through that whole stagger animation, you could just be dead by the time you get back up. It also prevents knockdowns, and the same thing applies there. Yeah, you could use handspring and like almost negate knockdowns, but almost negating them and actually negating them are two very different things. And again, while that knockdown animation plays, you are more vulnerable. Enemies have an increased accuracy against you than they do when you're moving. It's just not the same thing. It is an effect that we have replacements for now. You can get overguard and that kind of thing. There are a lot of frames that don't care about it, but the fact that it does what it does, it can go in the Exilus slot, and it's just available for any frame to slot in, is just a huge deal. I really feel like I can't understate how important this mod is. The fact that it's locked behind a login reward is just like a tragedy. They should swap that out for like almost anything else. I don't know. They should make a new mod and use that as the 600-day login reward and put this somewhere into the actual game because it's just ridiculous that it is locked behind such a long wait. Another factor about this, like I mentioned with Cautious Shot, this is a multiplicative effect. So 90% chance to resist stagger is not nearly the same thing as 100%. At a 90% chance to resist stagger, you're going to get staggered constantly. At 100%, you do not get staggered. And that counts for self-damage, self-stagger effects from, AoE weapons. So that's another reason why Cautious Shot is not as good, why ranking this up doesn't help that much. because Prime Sure-Footed exists, does the exact same thing now, and so much more. Um, I just it's almost belongs in its own tier. I guess today it doesn't belong in its own tier. 2, 3 years ago, it belonged in its own tier. Okay. Um, primed tactical pump. Wait a minute. What does this mod do? Yeah, reload speed. That we are gonna put that. Where is the magazine size for shotguns? Can't be that far up. Is it? There it is, primed ammo stock. Yeah, so we're gonna put that down just above primed quick draw. Again, 100% speed is better than 88. Um, oh, I guess one thing about this, about Prime Tactical Pump, Quick Draw, and Magazine Warp, I said they're not as good as you want them to be, as you think they're going to be. This is not reload overall. This is the speed at which you reload. So 100% reload speed cuts the reload time in half. 55% reload speed. Oh, sorry, this is magazine capacity. 55%. Where is it? 55% reload speed, steady hands. There it is. No, that's recoil. Fast hands. There we go. 55% reload speed is like a 1/3 reduction in your reload time. So that's another reason why those are not as good as you think. But Prime Tactical Pump, I do find relevant. Um, these days, maybe not so much. Maybe that could go down into not important anymore. Maybe all of these could go down into not important. I mean, maybe this whole section could drop down into not important. Um, but it's, I think, on the bottom of situational, but not important is fine. The reason why this is like notably lower than primed ammo stock, actually, you know what? This is going up. Primed ammo stock is going up. And the reason is you have your Kuva Heck, you have your Tigris Prime, although the Tigris Prime is a lot less relevant these days than it once was. But you have both of those things where adding 100% magazine capacity is a lot better than like plus 90% magazine capacity. Because on 100% magazine capacity, the Heck goes from 4 shots to 8 shots. And that means you can do from 1 full unload to 2 full unloads before you have to reload the weapon. And same with the Tigris. If you put this on the Tigris Prime, you go from being able to fire it once, that is fire it twice because of the duplex trigger, to being able to fire it twice. And so 100 is actually an important breakpoint. So 110 magazine capacity is an important number to have on a single mod. You can take this to rank 9 and that'll get you there. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, rank 9 on this is plus 100 magazine capacity. And that gets you there on the Tigris Prime and the Kuva Heck both. In fact, you can even go to rank 8, I think, and still get the full 8 shots on the Heck and 4 shots on the Tigris. I think that's right. Don't quote me on that, but I believe that rounds up to 8 and 4. But like, that's an important mod. Primed Target Cracker. This is the pistol critical damage mod. I want to put that up with Primed Pistol Gambit because both of these together make critical pistol damage quite good. This is still not as good as the Vital Sense. That's what it's called, is Vital Sense, the rifle critical damage mod. Yeah, which is 120. But rifle critical chance mods don't hit 187. It's 150 for point blank or 200 for the corrupted one, which the name is escaping me at the moment. But both of these together make critical um, pistol builds quite good. I would not level both of them, probably. I would go with the corrupted pistol mod and then prime target cracker. But eventually I would level this. I think there's a case to be made to put this down into situationally important, just because it's not actually as important to max it. And taking it to rank 8 doesn't matter as much because you're losing out compared to the corrupted critical chance mod. I'm going to keep it here just to keep these things here, though I am going to reverse the order. The critical damage is more important than crit chance here because this is not a replaceable effect. This can be replaced. Primed Venomous Clip. We're going to put that up here. We're going to put that down below dual rounds because regular Venomous Clip is 120%. I believe that's correct. Yeah, regular Venomous Clip is 120%. So that's a lot closer than most of these. But 187 is still a lot of toxin damage. So we're gonna keep that up here. I think that's still good. Primed Vigor. I'm putting that here. There are a couple of builds where this is actually a pretty good mod. You're not gonna need them. You're not gonna need this for those builds. And you're not even going to get this for a long time anyway. I would take Prime Shred, Prime Sure-Footed, and probably Primed Fury over wherever Primed Fury went. There it is. I would take those before I take the Primed Vigor. Where did I put this? There are just way too many mods. Yeah, there it is, Prime Vigor. But if you do like one of the frames that likes this particular mod, don't let me stop you. Pick that up too. Provoked damage during bleed out. That is extremely not relevant anymore. In fact, I'm going to put that, yeah, healing return. You know what, I'm going to put healing return up above brute conditioning even. Where the hell did I not get the puncture version of this? I'm not going to look for it if I do have it, but I just want to disabling conditioning. I think I missed that mod. Hold on a second here. Sorry, I'm going through. Yeah, I did not get disabling conditioning. One moment. I somehow did not download that mod, which is why I don't have it. There we go. Now we do have it. We're going to put that there. I don't know if puncture or impact is better. Um, they're about the same. Anyway, provoked. Damage during bleed out. This is terrible. Um, at one point, maybe this was, people might have run it. You might have run it because you didn't have anything better to run. Literally, you didn't have 8 mods to put on your Warframe back in 2014. And so your bleed out damage was more relevant. Um, Critically, this does not affect operator damage. This doesn't affect last gasp. And so in the modern game, it has no purpose. I guess technically you could do an Oberon build that has like 2 minutes of bleed out time, and you could sit there and get 100% damage bonus while sitting on your ass and bleeding out. I don't think that's gonna be a build that anybody does, though. If somebody wants to do the meme build now, if somebody is inspired to do a meme provoked build, please link it to me because I want to see that. But I think outside of a meme build, this is about as bad as a mod is going to get. If you're investing 10,000 endo or whatever it costs to max this thing. Regular redirection. I'm actually putting this right below primed redirection. I think it's actually almost as good as primed redirection, but it's not. It does fall short. Um, I think it hits most of the breakpoints that primed redirection hits, uh, except for shield gate duration. There are frames where primed redirection by itself can get you to a 2.5 second shield gate, and regular redirection does not get you to a 2.5 second shield gate, and so primed redirection matters there. But I think in a lot of cases, these are going to be pretty similar. Regular redirection is much cheaper to max than primed redirection is. I don't remember what it costs to max redirection, but it's not a crazy amount. On the flip side, you might only want to max one of these. You might only take regular redirection up to 8 and then save your endo to max primed redirection, or even just take primed redirection up to rank 8. Even I think rank 6 is going to be more than 100%. Let me double check that. Yeah, rank 6 on primed redirection is 114%. So like once you've got this, there's almost no reason to run regular redirection. What does that cost? That's 12. Sorry, I'm now like, yeah, it's 12 and it's more uh more shield capacity. So it costs the same and has more shield capacity. So it's not great. The thing that saves it from being lower is it's so cheap to max because it's a common mod. Helix Guard. This is again about as bad of a mod as you can get. This is about as bad of an investment of 20,000 endo or whatever this costs to max as you possibly can have. You can increase your combo count while blocking. There are actually builds that can use that. it's not useless, so it does go above Cautious Shot and Provoked. Well, Cautious Shot isn't useless either, but it's just really bad. This also does not need to be rank 10 to be usable. You know what? I'm actually going to put it above these beast mods because I think it's a little better than those. But it's not better than Healing Return. But that's pretty bad. Ribbon mods. This is a Grakata ribbon, but this is just a stand-in for all ribbon mods. And we are putting those there on the bottom of situationally important. Ribbon mods only go up to rank 8, so it's a lot easier to max them. But they are the very definition of situational. It's only for one weapon, and the effect may not be any good. If it is good, it may only be good for very specific builds. But when it is good, it's really good. And so at that point, the cost to max the ribbon mod becomes very worth it, and you should definitely do that. If you get a god roll, you should max it and use it. But I would not hunt that down and max those before I took anything in these top 2 tiers to rank 8, for example. Maybe that's not true. I think for a god roll ribbon, I might do that above Firestorm or Fulmination, which maybe I should move those down. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to move those down. We're gonna move those down along with Prime Shred because those are relevant for similar reasons. Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, so then I would not max a Riven mod before anything in either of these two, unless it was a god roll. Rolling Guard. Rolling Guard used to be really good. It used to be one of those mods you put on every single build, and it's not anymore. It is still very good. I think people don't value it as highly as it's worth. It does status cleanse, and it does make you invulnerable. There are some builds where it's just, really nice to have a 3-second invulnerability on command. But it's not as good as it once was. There are replacement effects. The things that were critical for it are not as critical. There are just a lot of ways to get straight up status immunity now, which was a much rarer thing back in the day. So it has definitely fallen from grace, but it is still quite a good mod. Sacrificial Pressure. That is going up. We're going to put that in situationally important. Yeah, we're putting that in front of the Bane mods, and I'm putting Sacrificial Steel up there as well. Sacrificial Pressure is notably worse than Sacrificial Steel. It is 110% melee damage. If you have both, I think it goes up to 137.5% or something. Either way, it is not the 165% you get with Prime Pressure Point. The only reason why having both of these, having this one up here along with Sacrificial Steel is relevant is because Sacrificial Steel is so good. This is just a very powerful mod. It is the single biggest unconditional critical chance mod that you can get in the game. Single biggest for melee weapons. The doubling on heavy attack brings it up to the same amount of critical chance that you get for Blood Rush, which, where did Blood Rush go? That's got to be up here, right? Did I put that down? I know I put it down a little bit compared to where it used to be, but I didn't put it that far down. Blood Rush, there it is. Blood Rush, actually, you know what? I could even make a case that Blood Rush should come down here alongside Sacrificial Steel. Let me think. I think I'm gonna. Um, I think heavy attacks are a lot more relevant these days. Blood Rush has just fallen uh, from where it once was. Um, if you're using like a glaive, for example, you can use this to get a 440% critical chance bonus on your glaive heavy attacks, which is fantastic. Any sort of heavy attack build is going to really benefit from that, as long as it does. Whoops, knocked a roll of paper towels over. Any sort of heavy attack build is going to benefit from that, as long as it also cares about critical chance. Um, and even non-heavy attack builds, this is still a big deal. Sanctuary, again, this is pushing the bounds of how bad a mod can actually be when it costs 10. I don't know, maybe somebody is going to say, oh yeah, I never leave home without my sanctuary. But an 1800 health shield these days, any enemy is going to pop that instantly. Okay, Serration. We're putting that right up here. Um, even with arcanes, even with galvanized aptitude, Serration is still one of the best mods in the game. It is much cheaper than galvanized aptitude to max. It being an uncommon mod, it's just easy to max, easy to get to rank 8. You're going to get Serration way sooner than you ever get an arcane for your primaries. Um, and you're just going to keep using, it for as long as you play the game, probably, unless they come out with something that is just that much better. On weapons where you have multiplicative galvanized aptitude damage, you are probably going to be running galvanized aptitude and Serration, unless you're running galvanized aptitude and an arcane that gives damage. But even then, you might still also have Serration, just as an unconditional 165% damage bonus. It's just really good. I think a case could be made that it actually belongs down here, but based on the cheapness of it, I think it actually belongs above these mods, because this is an uncommon and these are legendary. So these cost way more to max up. And even galvanized shot, aptitude, and chamber, those don't cost legendary costs, but they cost a lot. Uh, I think that's right. The galvanized mods cost the same as the rare mods, I believe. Let me double check that. Yeah, galvanized, amalgam mods, and corrupted mods all count as rare. So narrow-minded, blind rage also um, are not going to cost as much as prime continuity or prime sure-footed to max, but they are going to be more than Serration. So it's just a good mod. You're going to get one early, and you're going to rank it up. I have ranked 2 of these to rank 10 because I forgot that I ranked one of them to rank 10, and I ranked a second one, and I'm not even sad about it. Um, yeah, I did melt it down into Endo, but like, you know, what are you going to do? Sharpshooter. On headshot kill with a sniper weapon, you get 15 energy. Um, this goes down here somewhere. Yeah, you can use this. That goes onto a build, I'm sure. Maybe that goes on to Site 09 or something, um, onto the Exalted Sniper. But I think you do not get the energy while the Exalted Sniper is active, because it costs energy to fire, and so you are still in a period of blocked energy regen after firing. And I think, let me double check. Let me look at the wiki. But I think that counts as energy regen, and so you will not get it. Um, oh no, I'm wrong, actually. The wiki says that it does work while you are in Ivara Prowl or with Cyto9's Neutralizer. So you know what? That actually pushes this up quite a bit. We're gonna put that up to Archon continuity levels. I should go and change my builds. I learned something doing this. That's nice. I like learning things. Um, yeah, but you can still take this to rank 8 and get 13 energy per kill. You do not need to take this to rank 10. In fact, even leaving this at like rank 6 and getting 11 energy per kill might actually be better because it'll only cost 8 mod slots instead of 12 for the max rank one. That's quite a lot of mod capacity to restore energy, even if that is, the fact that you can offset prowl cost and you can offset neutralizer cost with it is pretty valuable. Um, yeah, so that's nice. Yeah, the fact that that works well while you have channeled energy or a ability use energy block active makes that way better than I thought it was. But it's still a 10 rank mod, and it's a rare, and that's expensive, and it only goes on a couple of things. It's just not important. I would not prioritize this at all, um, unless you really like Cyto 9 and probably also Ivara or some other frame that does headshots. Harrow, well, Harrow doesn't have energy problems. Harrow doesn't need this. He's got other solutions. Um, okay, Shelter. This is even worse. Actually, no, this is better than Sanctuary because it's cheaper, but it's also terrible. I don't know. Shocking Claws. We're putting that down alongside Chilling Claws. These are all like, I don't know, why are these a thing? You know what? I'm gonna actually take Burning Claws and bring that down. We're putting those in front of Bite, but those all belong somewhat similar. These are situational and not important. Um, I don't want to put those up there. Spectral Serration. Let's put that up here in front of the Bane mods, I think. Does it belong in front of the melee mods? I don't know if it does. I think you might want to put it in front of the melee mods. If you do invis frames, for example, Ivara or Cyto 9, if you're a big fan of those, you're probably going to want to max that before any of these things, or at least rank it up before any of these things. But you know, it's not critical. It is good though. 330% damage. That's pretty close to what those arcanes give you. So you can use some other arcane while you're using this, and then do stuff with it. If you have Spectral Serration going, and you have a multiplicative galvanized aptitude weapon, that's quite good. That's a big multiplier, so that's nice. It's a good mod. Steel fiber. Situational, but not important. Uh, there are frames that care about armor. There are effects that care about armor. there aren't a lot of them, it doesn't make that big of a deal. System reroute, ability efficiency. Where is primed morphic transformer? Is that? I want to put that right in front of that. I think system reroute is actually a fair bit better than primed morphic transformer. Efficiency matters more for archwings than ability strength because efficiency, like archwings have fewer sources of energy gain than they have, you know, you just don't have that much energy as an archwing. You do passively regen energy, but like it's still not that great. And so 55% efficiency on a single mod is nice. But I don't feel like it's better enough, and it's cheaper. Primorphic Transformer is legendary. This is a rare. But I don't feel like it's better enough to warrant pushing it up beyond this other Archwing mod. Tainted Mag. This is magazine capacity increase and reload speed decrease. I feel like this is actually giving it too much credit. Let's put this down. Yeah, we'll put that down here with fast hands. Tainted Mag, I believe, is for pistols, not for primaries, or not for primaries, but even so. Tainted Shell, same thing. We're actually putting that here. The only reason you would want to use these is for meme builds. This is accuracy increase, which is nice, but it reduces fire rate, and that's not nice. It's actually quite difficult to get an accuracy increase on a shotgun or on any weapon, but the reload speed decrease is still pretty bad, or the fire rate decrease is still pretty bad. And like, what are you doing with this? It's just, you know, I don't know. You can't Exilus that unless they changed that. Let me double check. I don't think that you can do that. No, that is not an Exilus available mod. If it were, I think there would be more of a case to use it. As it is, you just have better things to do. This is not important. Toxic Flight, that goes down along with Firewalker. I think it's better than Firewalker because it doesn't fuck with your heat inherit builds, but otherwise it's just not good. Transient Fortitude, that goes, I think that goes up to the top of the big value. It's not quite as good as Blind Rage. We don't really care about efficiency so much in the modern game because there are so many ways to get energy. Whereas duration does matter a little bit more, and the ability strength on Transient Fortitude is not nearly as high as it is on Blind Rage. However, these two mods are almost as good. It's just the fact that they are both replicating their effects that is making me push Blind Rage up more. However, you can equip both of these. So if you have a build that really wants ability strength, you're going to put both of these on it. It's a good mod, really powerful effect, just not quite as good as Blind Rage. Then we have the Umbral mods. Speaking of ability strength increases, I'm going to put Umbral Intensify up here as well. Umbral Intensify is difficult to slot because it's an Umbral mod, so it takes Umbral polarity, and that is a pain in the neck, and it costs 16 mod capacity, which is also a lot. But the fact that you get 44 ability strength or more for no, real downside, that's, to me, I value that pretty highly. Transient Fortitude is cheaper to max, and it's probably more generally applicable because you don't need to Umbral Forma stuff, and it's easier to slot if it's unformed. Well, it's not really easier to slot if it's unformed, but it's way easier to get the V polarity. I forget what it's called, Matter-Eye polarity, whatever it is, V polarity. V polarities are all over the place. Umbral polarities are not common. Then umbral fiber and vitality. You know what? I need another umbral fiber. There we go. We're going to add umbral fiber, and that goes in keep it at base rank. There can be builds where you want to include umbral fiber and don't care about armor. You're just trying to up the amount of ability strength that Umbral Intensify gives you, but you don't care about the armor, and you don't really have a better mod to slot in. So you can keep that at base rank for a long time. Umbral Fiber and Vitality themselves, however, where is my regular basic vitality mod? Oh, it's not on there yet. Okay. So we're putting that on here. Let's put that here. Actually, let's not split up the Archwing mods. And we're going to put Umbral Vitality above that. This is another one. I think Umbral Vitality is a fair bit better than Umbral Fiber. I just want to keep those together. While I'm on here, let's do regular Vitality. I'm actually putting that in front of Umbral Vitality, primarily because it's so much cheaper to level up, like with redirection versus prime redirection. And if you just have Umbral Vitality, regular Vitality costs less, it's an easier polarity, and it provides the exact same plus 100 health. It's only with the inclusion of the other Umbral mods that Umbral Vitality starts giving a better effect. But with the other Umbral mods, this is in fact the biggest health increase in the game on a single mod. So, you know, that's something, even if it's not very much, and it's not as much as it once was. Vapor Trail is another, you get energy mod. What is it? Oh no, it's you use energy. You use energy to go faster, which actually I like going fast. One of the big problems with K drives is they are slower than Archwing, considerably slower. And so going faster is nice, but this does not make you faster enough to catch up to Archwings. So it is still not very good. But I could see putting it, yeah, Juice is under the situational tier. We're not putting this up on situational. Let's put it here in front of the other dash mods. And then one more, which is Vigorous Swap. That is going all the way up here. This is very situational, but for the places where it matters, there really is not a replacement effect for it. It's a way to get additional weapon damage on a Warframe slot, which, I mean, that's pretty good. It also gives you additional damage on some things that you would not expect. It gives a 165% damage bonus to certain abilities. I believe the wiki talks all about that. If you don't know about what I'm talking about, if this sounds like crazy talk to you, you can go look up the wiki, and yeah, it lists all of the special interactions, including which abilities it applies to, and also notes that it gives multiplicative increase to ability strength on those abilities, which is quite nice. So for example, it works on Balefire, it works on Artemis Bow, it works on Null Star, which is a ability that you can't really get that kind of increase on. You can't put weapon mods on Null Star. It works on pyrotechnics. That's flares, one ability, which actually that's pretty relevant. You can't really get that on that particular ability, and that ability is used. That does have a use. So vigorous swap, very situational, um, but also it does have a general use, and it's kind of an irreplaceable effect. This is not important. I would not max this early, but I would, I think leveling it up is actually a pretty reasonable thing to do. If you look at this and you think I'm not going to swap weapons and then shoot stuff for 3 seconds and then swap weapons again, you do not need to get this. It is not a key mod like one of these other ones. Um, but it's just something that you are probably eventually going to want to make a build that uses vigorous swap. And that, oof, that is everything. This was 2.5 hours to make this. I can't believe how long that was. Let's zoom in and let's look at what we got here. Prime sure-footed. Yep. Galvanized aptitude. Yep. Galvanized savvy. Yep. Those are all good. Let's talk about this, the one right below that also. Blind rage. Yep. Continuity. Narrow-minded. Oh, wait a minute. I am missing one of these. There is one of those that does range. There is overextended. How did I miss that? I took these off of the wiki, and so why do they not have that on there? But we need to put that on there because Overextended is a very good mod, and that belongs on this list. There we go, Overextended, and that actually belongs way up here, right alongside. Yeah, I think that's the right place for it. I think in front of narrow-minded, but behind prime continuity. I said ability range is very difficult to get. This, along with stretch and augur reach, are basically, I think that's the only real way to get range in the game. So having 90% range, that's a big deal. Minus 60% ability strength, that's not good. You don't want that, but there are a lot of ways to get ability strength, including that, and others. So overextended is a very valuable effect. But yeah, overextended, narrow-minded, galvanized chamber, very good. Serration, primed heated charge, cryo rounds, fever strike, galvanized shot, prime charged shell, chilling grasp, point blank. Yeah. And again, you don't, I would not level both of these. I would pick one of them, probably prime charge shell, and level that one first. But you could do chilling grasp, and that's almost as good. It might even be better depending on which build you're doing. You know, it's just good. And then we have big value. These are also really valuable mods. A lot of these things are going to be in a lot of different builds. Situationally important. These are good, but you're not running these everywhere. Certainly not for the Bane mods. Those are just, they're there because they're so powerful, but they are easy to ignore. I had to put them somewhere. I mean, I didn't have to put them somewhere, but yeah, I'm not going to ignore them just because they're a pain in the neck. Good, but not important to max. This is just like general good stuff, or it's stuff that's, archgun stuff that's good, but like doesn't actually make that big of a difference because you're not using archguns all the time. Situational and not important. There's a lot of stuff in here where it's like, yeah, this is good, but it doesn't matter that much. Not important. This is just stuff you don't really need to worry about. and then keep it at base rank. This is stuff where, ranking it up is not necessarily good, actually. So, that's all that stuff. And that's everything. That's the tier list. I'm going to zoom out again just so you can see the whole thing. Can you see the whole thing? Yeah. Just barely fits on my screen here. Um, I wish they would let these go a little bit wider, but I guess they don't want to do that. Um, anyway, uh, if you actually watched this whole thing, um, wow, I can't believe that. That's quite a lot. If you just skipped to the end and stared at the tier list and which mods went where, um, I do not blame you. Uh, I do not make a lot of claims as to the accuracy here. This is a lot of mods, and this is a lot of my opinion, which could be, just my opinion. It could be outdated. It's going to be outdated in a year. You know, don't read too much into it. Don't treat this too seriously. But right now, today, this is how I'm feeling. So thank you, and I hope it helps.